Okay. Hey, how's it going? I know a lot of people have been wondering why manifesting for them hasn't really worked, or why maybe just saying affirmations over and over again haven't been helping them manifest things in life. And at least for me, I want to explain. Now, you need to understand that everybody's different. Um, but I think some fundamental knowledge will help you make maybe a better decision on what you need to do to move forward. So first, you need to understand that everything is energy. Okay, so that's kind of like rule number one is okay. So including physical objects, right? The remote control, your couch, your house, your body, right? It's all energy that is vibrating at a certain frequency. And what you need to understand about your body is that you are constantly vibrating out a signal. And when people talk about like raising their vibration, all they're talking about really is increasing, right, the frequency, right, increasing the rate in which you're vibrating, as well as how powerful, right? You can think of like internet speeds, right? Wi-Fi has a certain speed, but it also has a certain bandwidth, and it's kind of the same thing here. Okay, so what people fail to understand is that in your subconscious, so your conscious mind, right? Like you will say something like you want $1 million. Well, your conscious mind, what you say, is about 5% of your overall vibration. And the other 95%, and I'm going to circle the body here because that's where I feel it within myself, right? Is your subconscious. Your subconscious. And these two things together, that plus that equals that, your vibration, okay? So when people are like, oh, well, I want to make some affirmations, right? I want $1 million. I want $1 million. I want $1 million. What they're failing to recognize is that within their subconscious, they have limiting beliefs, right? They have limiting beliefs that I'm not good enough for money. Money is scary. Money is hard to find, right? By the way, money is energy, and energy is infinite. And I know that goes against everything we're taught to believe in, that there's scarcity, and we can go into that into another time. But if you really, really want to know, want to understand, money is just energy. Everything is energy, right? So if you think about money as energy, and energy is infinite, energy does not have an ending or a beginning, it just is, it's infinite, then you realize that money is also infinite. So you need to start changing what is going on here in your subconscious, okay? So when you're doing affirmations, you're saying the same thing over and over again. What you're doing is you're subtly just adding new code, right? You're adding new things to your subconscious very subtly. But what a lot of people don't understand is that they already have limiting patterns or codes, right, in their subconscious. So until you actually remove those other codes, all you're doing is just you're going to be creating a mixed signal, okay? So your signal will be white and blue. White is going to be the limiting beliefs, and blue is going to be what you're trying to add. So you're just basically piling on top, and what it does is it just adds to the vibration, right? It adds kind of like a mixed signal. And you think about all all the different languages we speak, right, across the world. I don't even know right now. I could probably Google it. But for the, for right now, I don't even know how many languages people speak all across the world. So if you want to speak to the universe, I want something, it's not going to listen to your words, right? It's not going to listen to your words. I mean, maybe a little bit, but only like what, like 5%? What is the universal language? The universal language is energy. So the same word in one language and the same word in another language that are the same word have the same vibrational frequency. So until you remove the limiting beliefs and replace them with what you want, your vibration here is always going to be a mixed vibration. So the way the universe works, think of the universe as a giant like resonating chamber. If resonating chamber doesn't really resonate with you, you can think of it as like a giant sound booth. Okay, as I clean up my screen here, a giant sound booth where the sound bounces around. Okay, so we have God, right? God, the source of all that there is. Sorry, as I try to figure out what I'm doing here. Okay, God, the source of all that there is, created the universe. And for this example, we're just doing like a 3D box, okay? God created the universe so we could create. We could create anything we want. Well, how does that work? You, as a little soul, that's you, right? What you do is you emit a vibrational frequency and it reverberates off the universe back to you. And it manifests what you want or what you are. So the universe doesn't manifest what you want, it manifests what you are, right? It responds to energy. Again, you are always emitting this frequency, right? All the time. Again, this is your conscious mind, right? Up here, your brain, 5%. Your subconscious, right? 95%. Does that start to make sense? So as a soul, right, before we came here, you could manifest things instantly. You think of something and it just creates instantly. We never left that state of creativity, right? We never left the universe. All we did is just change form. And think about, right, like you're living infinitely on the spirit side. Time doesn't exist, right? And you can create anything anytime you want instantly. And at least for me, I would imagine that would get kind of boring after a while. It'd get kind of boring, right? You want to experience something else. You want to learn. You want to evolve as a soul. So it was added. And again, we agree to this. So this environment that we're in, this 3D reality, is a collective experience, right? Where we all agree together. That's why it feels so solid and real. We agree, and it's not even on a conscious level. We agree, and even the earth, right? Because the earth is conscious, it also agrees to this reality. So even if all the people and all the live beings were erased off of the earth would still exist because it is perceiving itself, right? Like it is contributing to its own reality. So we never left that state of creativity, being able to create. We just came down into a different level, into a different form. And in that form, we all collectively decided, at least for this experience, that it was going to be delayed, right? It was going to be delayed. We wanted to try something new, right? So manifesting what you want, it sometimes takes a while for things to catch up. And when I talk about what you want, it's not what your, I mean, it can be, I guess, what your brain wants. But what you should really be focusing on is what your heart wants, right? Because your heart is kind of like the little window to your soul, kind of like the pinhole through that veil, right? The veil of like forgetfulness is what they call it. We chose to forget, and honestly, forgetting about our mission here, what we came here to do, is honestly a blessing. It really is. The more you remember, the more you know, the more you're responsible for. So we all decided before we came here, each soul decided what they were going to do. There's plenty of NDE videos out there. NDE stands for near death experience, and you can look them up on YouTube by different people, hundreds of them. And they all describe similar things where, and I know personally that this is true, but I'm saying for you, if you want to do your own investigation, they all talk about before they came here what they wanted to do. And they have a soul team, and their whole lives are mapped out. You map out everything. And of course, people say, well, you don't even know all the horrible things that have happened to me. That's a hard pill to swallow. You're telling me I chose to do all of that. Yeah, well, your soul did. Nothing will happen to you here that isn't supposed to happen to you or that you didn't agree to on a soul level. And you have to remember, right, on the other side, on the infinite, where time doesn't exist, this momentary blip of horror or sadness, it doesn't mean anything, right? It's just the experience. That's all that it is. It's the experience, and what did you learn from it? And you can watch these NDE videos where people talk about this. Tons of people talk about going to the other side and remembering how they planned out their life. Hundreds of people all have their own independent experiences with this. Now, whether or not you were supposed to have an NDE or whether or not you were supposed to remember, again, that's based on your life that you set up for yourself. I'm sorry if you can hear my birds in the background. Okay, so now we are going to talk about, well, you said I'm full of all these unconscious codes. Well, what do I do about them? How do I remove them to get what I want? First, you need to understand where these energetic codes came from. So, everything is energy, including emotions. So, one of the fastest ways to reprogram or even program your um, subconscious to begin with is emotion. Okay. So, what happens when you're growing up? You take on stuff from your environment. Okay. The limiting beliefs of your parents, or whatever environment, if you went to like a boarding school of some kind, or your friends, grandparents, whoever you lived with, your family, if you're adopted, it doesn't matter, but your surroundings influenced what you believe, right? When you're younger, you're like a sponge. And your subconscious is actually, you can think of it as a sponge. It's a live sponge that constantly holds on and lets go of things. And you need to tell it. So, one of the best ways is through emotion. So, if you learned growing up something and it was a fear, right? Fear based emotion, a lot of what is going on in people's subconsciouses right now is fear. Okay. Fear is like the big one. I'm going to circle it. Fear. And I like to think of emotions like cheese, right? There's happiness is an emotion. Well, there's different flavors of happiness, right? Just like there's different flavors of cheese. There's Swiss cheese, cheddar cheese. Even within Swiss cheese, there's like baby Swiss, right? There's like all these different like subcategories. And it's the same thing with every emotion, including fear. There's different types of fear. And if you were holding on to some type of fear based emotion in correlation to a subject or a topic, it's kind of like the control save, right? Emotion equals like, I don't even know the abbreviation, CTR, control save. Emotion is the control save button to save an energy pattern into your subconscious. Here's my little person right here. So control save, and now you're going to save an emotion here. And your subconscious will store these for you if you, for some reason, do not feel safe enough to experience that emotion, whatever it is. And you can store happiness too. You can store all kinds of emotions. And our state, right, our spirit state is peace. Peace is like a straight line. And you can have happiness, right? And you can have like fear and sadness, right? And I think love would be up here too. So you can have love, happiness. You can have fear down here. You can have anger, right? So our soul is at a place of neutrality right here in the middle. And emotions are kind of supposed to be just fleeting things, right? And if you, for some reason, did not feel safe to express some type of emotion, your subconscious is going to hold on to that. So, in order for you to release these emotions that are down here, these emotions aren't just emotion, they're usually tied to some type of concept or belief. In order to release them, you need to feel these emotions. And this is what's going to be hard for people because the first step is going to be overcoming the fear of feeling fear. And that's it, right? Is you're afraid to feel the fear. You're afraid to feel it. You're afraid to acknowledge it. You're afraid to realize it exists. So the first step, and for me, it was asking God, right? Asking God, and everybody has their own plan. Everybody's different. I asked God, God, what do I do? How do I begin? And trusting, God, the divine, right? That He's going to show me what I need to figure out. And that's what I did. And that's when I started learning this from all these different people. And what I'm doing here in this video is trying to compile um, all these hundreds of videos and books and stuff that I've read. And I've done so much research on this. I'm trying to compile it in a way that helps people kind of understand. So, for some people, clearing out all of these subconscious codes, you can call them codes, energy patterns, can take months, years. So for some people, it's even a lifetime, right? Another way that you can have these codes or energies in you is when you're born. I don't know if you've noticed, but family lineages seem to have similar problems in life. And they've even done studies, right, where somebody was given up for adoption and later on in life they struggle with the same things that their parents struggled with, even though they weren't raised by their parents or didn't even know their parents. They had the same issues growing up. Well, how is that? When you're in the womb, right? I draw like a womb here, I guess. Here's a little baby you. You don't have any other senses, so your most prominent sense is going to be your ability to feel energy. So outside sources, right, around your mom, whatever energy, that's going to imprint on you. You're a little sponge. That's going to imprint on you. Also, long-term things tend to stay, right? So your mother's subconscious is going to have its own energy to it. It's going to have its own energy patterns. And those are also going to imprint on you. And what happens is these energy imprints, they actually store and change your DNA. So I don't know if you've noticed, I know a lot of scientists talk about they don't really know what activates certain genes in DNA and what doesn't. And it's energy. Energy is what turns it on, and it depends on what energy codes are saved. And you can think about this as an evolutionary standpoint, right? If you are pregnant or whatever, you are in a place. Let's say you're you're an adult and you're in a place of lack, right? There's no food, water. You're in a place of scarcity. That emotion and that fear is going to deposit itself into your subconscious, and then that is going to enter into your DNA. And then when your child is born, they are going to have that same energy of lack and scarcity in their DNA, because it's supposed to be a survival mechanism, right? That they're in fear, and that because then they will be, aware of, not overusing resources, right? Like, does that make sense? It's kind of like an evolutionary thing. And we're at a place now where we can erase those codes, right? We can erase those things consciously. And when you need to feel these emotions, a lot of it is just being present. I know when I go into a meditative state and I'm feeling these emotions, sometimes I don't have to quantify or put a label on what the emotion is. Words sometimes can't even describe whatever these emotions are. And that's okay. You just need to be present for feeling the emotion. Okay, so let's say you've done this for years and now you've cleared up all this subconscious stuff. So your subconscious is actually very open in the morning, right when you wake up and right before you go to bed. Those are like the two most prominent times where your subconscious is open. Like, if you think of it as a sponge, the pores of the sponge are kind of like widened up. They're open, they're more receptive of things coming in and out. Let's say you've cleared all this up, and you don't have to necessarily wait until everything's cleared to start reprogramming, right? You can add stuff in there. It's just the signal is going to be mixed until you start clearing out all of the other things. So if you want to listen to affirmations, the best time to do it is going to be as you're going to bed, while you're sleeping, as you're waking up. All that's doing is just it's subtly adding just a little layer at a time, like a thin little layer at a time. And then once you become conscious of that feeling, that's when it like solidifies, right? That's when it like really solidifies into, I don't know how else to explain it. It's when it solidifies. Whatever way works for you, whatever way you come across naturally, you need to figure out for yourself, honestly. And I know that's what sucks. And I know a lot of people are really looking for all these spiritual teachers to teach them, right? And they've all found a way that works for them. And it's like what they want to do is they want to cut and copy that, right? Copy paste through a copy machine and hand it out to everybody. And like, this is how to do it. And there might be fundamentals and it might have worked for them, but it might or might not work for you because you are different. You are wired different. You came in with a different soul plan. What works for all these people might not work for you. And so it's fine to investigate all these things and to try stuff out, but you can't rely on other people to fix you. You have to fix you. You have to find your own way. You have to do the legwork. And it might be overwhelming. You might not know where to start or where to go. And that's where I turn to God, right? Ask God, help me with this. Help me figure out what to do. Bring to my awareness my next step. Bring to my awareness. And a lot of times, a lot of these energies you have in your subconscious, you might not even be aware of them, right? They're running in the background. That's kind of the point of the subconscious, is so that you are free to experience reality. You're free to experience reality. So your subconscious is doing 95% of the work without you being aware of it. And that's the point, right? So you're not consistently having to worry about everything. You can live your life and experience reality and do fun things and go ride roller coasters and, do all this fun stuff. You're not consistently worried about that. So you might not even be aware of your subconscious programming. So a good place could be to ask God to bring it to your awareness in some way or another. And a lot of people, will start to realize that they were having weird dreams. And dreams are a way for your subconscious to reach you while you're dreaming. So to start journaling your dreams, right? What does this dream mean for me? And for me personally, it's not so much about the actual content of the dream, it's the emotions that I felt in the dream. If I saw a cow and the cow made me scared, it could be somewhat the cow, right? But also, I think it's the emotion that I felt with the cow. And that emotion that I felt has a vibrational resonance to it. And if you can match that in your mind, it's like a little key. There's my little key. I don't know how it looks, but that's my key. And it'll unlock this emotion here. If you can somehow create that same resonant frequency that you were shown in your dream of fear, if you can resonate that in your head, that becomes the key to unlock, and then that emotion kind of opens up. I hope this makes sense to people. I have no other way of really explaining it. It's one of those things that words don't really describe. You have to experience it for yourself. Again, I hope this helps people. I hope the point of this video is to empower you to know that you can create your reality. It may take a lot of work depending on your circumstance and where you're born into and why you chose to be born in the circumstances that you are, and that it may take time to clear all this out of you and to be aware be aware of it. But that empowers you that there is a way out, there is a way to do it, and that God will protect you and look after you, and that you just need to ask for help. And that's it. And trust that He will help you. God doesn't have a gender, right? He, she, whatever. God, source, whatever you want to call it. I like to call God, source, right? I like to call source God. It's like a little mask that I can interface with. Sometimes having a personality attached to something or a name attached to something helps you talk to it and identify with it. So sometimes I'll call, source God when I'm talking to it. And there's no problem with that. You can call God whatever resonates with you. I think of God as, again, like a mask, allowing me to interface with source. Giving it a personality of some kind to make it personable for my mind to understand, because, I am, again, coming from my human mind. So I hope this empowers you to do things for yourself. Don't rely on other people to give you information. This is something that you need to figure out for yourself, and God will be more than happy to show it to you if you ask. Okay,